Hi, friends. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Katie, and welcome to Okay, But Did You Know? A podcast where we talk about the TV and media that we love with a friend who's never seen it before.
Today, we're recapping and chatting about Once Upon a Time, episode 309 Save Henry. This episode aired on December 1st, 2013. It was written by Christine Boylan and Daniel T. Thompson and was directed by Andy Goddard. Now, before we get into our recapping and chatting, let's go over a synopsis for Save Henry. In Storybrooke, Maine, 2001. Remembering the Dark One's warning, the curse would come with a hole in her heart. Regina is still dealing with those feelings of emptiness 18 years later. The only time she felt somewhat fulfilled was when Owen was in town. And so she contacts Mr. Gold to help her adopt a child. Once he succeeds, Regina travels to Boston to meet her son, Henry. Everything is not perfect from the gate. Henry is having a hard time adjusting and constantly cries, and Regina worries he might be sick. The only answer could be in his medical history, but with a closed adoption, she has no access to it. When Sydney uncovers the identity of Henry's biological mother, Regina nearly gives him up for fear that keeping her son will lead to the curse's demise. But it's too late. She's already fallen in love with the boy. And instead, she crafts a potion of forgetting that allows her to forget that she learned that his biological mother is actually the savior, and she can raise her son happily. And in Neverland, after Pan gets away with Henry's heart, the heroes go back to the compound, offering the Lost Boys a home in Storybrooke if they'll help them get to Pan. The Lost Boys agree and point Regina, Emma, and Snow in the direction of his thinking tree. Once there, the tree traps them in its vines, seeking out the regret they hold on to. Pan may think he's all powerful, but he is still in the process of regaining his magic, and Regina breaks the vines, holding no regret over her actions because they led her to her son, and takes back Henry's heart and Pandora's box. Once on the Jolly Roger, they revive Henry and set the ship to fly back to Storybrooke. Though they thought they'd left Pan for dead on the island, he sneaks aboard the ship in one last attempt at Henry's heart. When it doesn't work, he goes after his shadow and switches their bodies right before Gold traps his body in Pandora's box. Now that Pan is possessing Henry's body, and Henry has his, Pan is free to continue his plan and gain back his power. A lot happened in this episode.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. I want to start with one of my favorite lines of the entire episode, which, quite frankly, I thought was sooner in the episode than I remembered it being. When Emma is trying to help Regina calm down a little bit, and she's like, it's my son, it's our son, I know how you feel." And she goes, "You have no idea what I feel. You have your parents, you have this person, a pirate who pines for you. You have everything, and yet you claim to know what I feel. All I have is Henry, and I am not about to lose him because he is everything." I love that line because it so perfectly encapsulates how much Henry means to her, and this episode is going to be me gushing about Lana's acting the entire time. However, I do tie that in with a line towards the very end where Emma is saying to the Lost Boys that she was recently reminded how many people she has that care for her. And I'm like, that wasn't the point of what she said. But
Nope.
that is a takeaway. But that wasn't kind of the point.
It's not the correct takeaway.
It's not the correct. It is a takeaway, but it's not really that this is a case where there is a correct answer. And it wasn't that, yes, you have a lot of people who love you. No, the answer is don't pretend to understand how Regina feels because you're just making it worse.
I feel like this episode really encapsulates like everything we've been saying this entire time with this show. Because I keep getting so angry when it's like when the show and everything don't really take into consideration Regina is Henry's mother.
Yeah.
Because she's the evil queen. And I'm like, no. This episode is all the proof I need.
Mm-hmm.
While at the same time her being like, I need a child. I'm like, okay, Regina, calm down.
That scene is perfect in so many ways because she walks in, she's like, I need a child, Gold, and I need your help. Well, I'm flattered, but uninterested. Not like that.
But also, like, Rumpel singing was not on my bingo card.
No, which was funny considering he's so sing-songy the entire series. Like, he does that, like he'll kind of talk like that, but he doesn't sing in the musical episode at all. Because
oh my god.
And I'm really curious because, and this will be a discussion for when we get to season 6. But so one of the songs that we have in the musical episode is Zelina, who you'll meet in a month-ish. Her song was added because someone actually was slated to sing and dropped out of the musical episode.
Mm.
So her song was added. I'm wondering if it was Robert Carlyle. We have no confirmation. We have no way of knowing whose song was supposed to be in the episode.
Unless we, like, bully writers, right?
Basically, I think we have to play them
Okay.
on, we have to be like, or just pester anyone that could have been involved.
Mhm.
Like, hey, we know there was a different person supposed to sing. Who was it? I can't think of anybody else, quite frankly.
Alright, showrunner, what do they have social media?
Eddie, I don't know if Eddie and Adam are on social. They're probably still on Twitter.
Ew.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy this episode
Okay.
for so many different reasons, but I had issues with it as well.
Okay.
Closed adoptions do tend to include medical records?
That's something that I didn't know, which is, I guess, is good to know. In this case,
Yes.
Emma does. I think in the case of this episode, I always play devil's advocate, but I'm gonna add on with this.
Yes.
Emma doesn't have a lot of medical records because she was in the foster system and left
Mhm.
it. So like, and she will see more of her time in the
Yeah.
foster system throughout the next couple of seasons. She moves around a lot. There's not a huge paper trail of her as a person. So like the case of like them saying that you may not have medical records access, she might not actually have any.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. I'm more going from the fact that they've just flat out said, like, "Oh, it's a closed," but they said they didn't have medical records due to it being a closed adoption.
Mhm.
Just say that we don't have medical records on this mother,
Yeah.
because when you go deep into, like, with all the things that are included in adoption, at the end of the day, you have to have medical records.
Mhm.
The name, no information can be on it, but you still need medical history for the child, because if anything pops up,
Yeah.
the adoptive parents need to be able to have access to that. So I was kind of confused. I was like, wait a minute. Hold
Well,
up.
we've already established this show sometimes with the real world things, the writers don't always do their research.
They really don't. And I'm just kind of sitting here like, well, okay, this is a little annoying, but it's okay. I just have in all caps at one point, Regina is mother,
Mhm.
because I fucking love her.
Yeah.
Because through the whole time, like, I did cry. I didn't sob like I expected to. I did have and I don't think I cried at the same time that you thought I was going
I don't
to.
know. Well, because I told you, I'm pretty sure with this episode specifically, the times that I cry, it's usually late at night when I'm watching it, and I watch this in the middle of the afternoon. So I really do think time of day does affect how much I'm gonna cry, which will be
Mhm.
interesting when I watch 311, because that one's usually no matter what time of day. Because I actually the reason why I skip that one is different than the reason why I skip the rest of this arc. It's because it makes me cry every time.
Oh.
Like, I know what happens. I gotta watch it.
I have and I have issues with Snow again. Like, Snow keeps pissing me off. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry. Henry is laying comatose in front of her, and Snow's main concern is that David is stuck on the island with gold in Pandora's box.
Mhm.
Your grandson is possibly dead, laying in front of you, and your first thing that you think you need to say is, "So David can't get off the island." Bitch, the
Yeah.
child may be dead.
Her priorities are really not on straight in this arc at all. They kind of won't be back on straight until the next half of the season.
I was so angry at Snow. I still am.
Yeah.
Um, I have just, like, the cute little things like time to be quiet. That's not how babies work.
No.
100% understand the struggle. Been
No.
there so much in my life.
Mm-mm.
Uh, my daughter didn't cry too much, but my son, my God, he used to be a horrible sleeper. It would
Mhm.
take us hours to get him to go to sleep. He would just cry and cry and cry.
Mhm.
So I had some flashbacks of my own,
No.
which was really rough. Um, then seeing, Blaine show up, because that's what I'm gonna call him right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
The 10 cc's of maternal love. I was like, fuck,
I
Blaine.
mean, he's a dick, but, like, he's at least the kind of doctor, at least during Under the Curse, we'll say, he's the kind of doctor that he's not gonna do unnecessary medical, like, stuff, not
Tests
no
and
unnecessary
stuff.
tests, invasive tests on a crying infant, like, unless it's clearly colic, which it clearly isn't.
Mhm.
Like, he's like, something's up here, but it's probably not medical." Like, it's also, so we know from, I mean, obviously, babies are older because acting, because there's labor laws involved, but, based off of the pilot, when she adopts him, Henry is 6 weeks old.
Oh,
So
man.
he's young. So again, the crying is gonna happen, but also, like, there are also, like, attachment kind of things that can happen with kids that are bounced around so early, to my
Mhm.
understanding.
Yes.
So,
So, like, because babies when they come out, they call it sometimes the fourth trimester,
mhm,
because that child really truly needs a mother
mhm,
in that time period. usually it's best if the child, of course, does have the birth mother to bond with to get through those first stages of life.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, as we discussed this, that's not always possible.
Mhm.
And so, like, that's when you're doing lots of skin to skin. And if you're like breastfeeding, like I did, you're feeding that kid around the clock. They eat like every 2 to 3 hours
Mhm.
from the beginning of the feeding, not the end. So that you could sit there and like the baby could take an hour to eat
Mhm.
and then turn around not even an hour later and they're hungry again. Like it's so rough on your brain. And then you add in the crying and the diapers. And if you're married, you've got a spouse. If you have other kids, you add that in. So like being a mom like truly really is so hard.
Mhm.
And that's why I've been so angry this whole time with Emma through this show because it's like no, Regina is his mother because she's done it all.
Mhm.
And it's a lot of fucking hard work. I
Yep.
would know. I've done it. I'm still doing it, but still the baby stage I've done twice now.
Yeah.
And it is oh man. Like and I did. I actually started crying when she was really struggling with Henry crying all the time. I'm
Mhm.
sitting there crying more from like traumatic experience than anything.
Is it the scene in the kitchen when she says to him, "Please give me a chance"?
Yes. I start crying there because I'm just like, I've literally done this,
Mhm.
exactly this with both of my children at some point in my life with
Yeah.
them. So it's just like being a mother is really freaking hard.
I really appreciate that for this episode we have your perspective on it. We have a mother's
Really?
perspective on this, mainly because, like, my perspective of this is just, like, I can see because most of my notes and most of what I
Mhm.
wrote down, which we'll get to later, though, is so much about Lana's performance and how much her relationship with Jared shows in the entire episode. But like, so I have a lot of like, I mean, stuff from the
Yeah.
flashbacks as well. But like, so much of my notes about this episode have to do with her, like the relationship that we've seen throughout the entirety of the show, and the fact that we have you talk about like the realities of like what's going on in those flashbacks. I think is very
Mhm.
valuable and continues to go on with our differing perspectives, kind of thing.
Very much. Like and you know, this is the first you've watched this probably a million times and now you're
Yeah, I
like,
don't
"Oh,
know.
wait, motherhood really is hard. Wait a minute."
Oh, no, it absolutely is.
It's really really hard. Um And then, like, the whole thing with the memory and Gold like, Gold in his memory. Now I'm seeing, like, when you were talking to me about how some people are like, "No, no, Gold has his memories from the beginning." This was like, "No, he doesn't."
No
This
clue.
is, like, so much proof of him being like, "What the fuck are you talking about, Regina? Like,
Exactly.
you're can't help you." And then, of course, I was like, "Oh my god, wait, Regina knew," but then the forgetting spell. So I was like, "Never
Yep.
mind, take that back."
Mhm.
And then I started crying again
Mhm.
because Henry said, "Thanks, mom."
That scene, that is usually if I don't start crying during, the scene with the in the vault,
Mhm.
it's always that scene because that is the first time the entire series, I would say. So it's the scene that starts with, like, Regina talking him in and, like, and all of that. It's when she says "My Little Prince" because it guts me so much. But this is the first time in the entire series that we've seen Henry allow Regina to be his mom.
Yeah.
And think from our perspective, I mean, it's been 2.5 years that we've been seeing it, but still, from her perspective, figuring timeline-wise, figure he's 11, a little maybe 11 and a half, and figuring his issues have started prior to the beginning of, like, the series. It's been 2 years for her, and think of that as a mother for 2 and for you can think of this for 2 years of having your child pull away, insist that you're not their mother, that you don't actually care about them, like,
Mhm.
how painful that's gonna be, but how gratifying and how wonderful it is for her to feel that now, because I love that scene with the 2 of them on the ship, it's just so
It's like
beautiful.
if my 10-year-old started doing that to me, like, right
Yeah.
now,
Mhm.
after raising her
Yeah.
half by myself because I got divorced when she was only 2.
Mhm.
And so for a few years, I was a single mother
Yeah.
as Regina was. So, like, while I am married and I have a wonderful husband who is actually, adopting my daughter.
Mhm.
So we'll all actually be, fully not I say fully a family, I don't mean it in the bad like, in a bad
No,
way.
I
I mean it
I know
like
what you mean.
he's adopting her. Um Being a single parent, like, because I also have that aspect too, I feel. Because for Regina, there was no yeah, she went and she had, like, Mary Margaret hold him for a minute and the doctor and everything else, but apart from that, when they cry and cry, you don't have anyone to help. You don't have
Mhm.
anybody to go, "Please hold this baby so I can get some sense of sanity." Because when you
Yeah.
listen to crying that much for that long, it literally makes you wanna rip your hair out, and
I'm
then you
sure.
feel guilty
Mhm.
because you're like, I'm the mother. I shouldn't want, like, I should be there for my child. Like, it's so complex. And
Yeah.
there's so many things with it that I think a lot of people don't know until they experience it.
Mm-hmm.
So I really related with
I'm
Regina in
sure.
this.
What's really a shame, and I really wish we'd gotten this, but unfortunately, so the earliest flashback we'll ever see with Henry is we'll see in 311.
Mhm.
We're going to see the moment where Mary Margaret gives him the storybook. So it's meant to be set just before the beginning of the pilot. That's the earliest, besides this, that we ever actually see Henry, and Lana's not in
Mhm.
that scene. So we never get like a flashback where he's like 5 and loves his mother.
Aw.
We never get that, and it's really unfortunate because the fans wanted that. Lana wanted that. By the time like she like started talking about it at like conventions, she's like, I don't know how it's gonna work because he's 17 now, but like it's a really a shame that we never got that. I guess there wasn't really a point in the show where that would have been a pertinent flashback. I guess it could
I
have
don't
worked.
care. Here, give it to me here. Like, give it to me at
Actually,
any point.
it could have worked in season 7. I take that back. It could have worked in season 7.
I don't care. Just give it to me
But
anyways.
like everyone wanted that, and we never get it.
Because she's such a good mom.
She is.
And then of course I did notice the thing between their eyes, and I was like, all right, what was that?
Mm-hmm.
I got my answer quickly.
The body snatchers.
And then all I could say was, did we just shoot a shadow with a cannonball?
Yes, we did.
So this was an interesting episode.
Yeah, shooting the shadow with a cannonball isn't necessarily the best way, considering Regina still had to blast it with magic.
Yeah, and then you have the whole thing with the coconut again, and
Well, the coconut, that was keeping
I
it
know.
contained.
I
That's
know.
fine. I think we could have just let it go and Regina blast it with magic and put it in the sail. That would have been fine.
But no, they had to
But
make it flashy and add the cannonball.
they had to use some kind of practical effect, I guess.
I guess.
In the event, I don't know. I guess in the event that like the CGI didn't work and all they had was the shot of the cannon. I don't know.
It was a choice.
I have no idea. So I don't actually have too many fun facts. This one, the wiki didn't have a whole lot. One thing I did find, because I knew that we had it, because I remembered seeing them, was there's actually more than what I put in our script. If you want to take a look, though, there's a little drop down with some promotional photos.
Okay.
Mostly they're just cute. There's one that's like clearly a behind the scenes of Lana and Jimmy. It's just so precious. And then I love the behind the scenes. I mean, it's behind because the green screen, but it's of Regina, holding on to Henry while they're in the Skull Rock, and then you have basically the while filming version of the promotional photo, or of the behind the scenes photo of Lana and Ginny. Because
she's just, I love this woman.
Lana's she's so good. Is like this episode. I mean, the entire show, but this episode so much. Like I wrote down. I think a lot as we watch the show that what makes these very outlandish episodes feel so grounded, especially when we spend so much time in Neverland and like we don't really have a lot of time we haven't had a lot of time in Storybrooke in this arc. But what makes it feel grounded is our actors. And something that I think it was Rachel Bloom said when when she was talking about them casting for Crazy Ex-Girlfriend was something when you're looking at so many auditions, like the only thing that she can really hold on to kind of make decisions was, do I buy it? Do I buy that this person could be this character? And I think not only does Lana hit that marker, I think she surpasses it with her performance, because I really think it's her performance specifically that grounds the whole story. Like she more than makes you buy that she is Regina protecting and loving her son. She embodies it in a way that is very difficult to do.
And like it's also a very complex character to play.
There's so many sides of Regina.
So many. Because like they did a great job, obviously, with casting, but having to try and find somebody who could do Evil Queen Regina, like in Storybrooke, but then still grow to what she's becoming, but then still like jump back into Evil Queen sometimes.
Yeah. Like
it's a lot of hard work.
Like in this episode, because we get the Evil Queen at the very beginning with the scene with Rumple, which I do like that her scene with Gold at the very end in his shop. That one kind of parallels the one in the beginning.
Yeah.
With the just instead of being behind bars, he's behind his counter. But like, so we have the Evil Queen at the very beginning. We have the Queen in Storybrooke is the best way I can describe her, because she's Regina the mayor, but like she almost calls herself the Queen. I'm like, honey, you've been doing this for 18 years. You should be better at this by now. So you have like that moment, and then she turns into the new mom Regina and all of that, and then we see her 10, 11 years later. There's so many sides to her just in this episode, and it's amazing to watch. Let's see. For fun facts, again, I don't really have a whole lot of them. Once again, our international titles, almost all of them were some version of saving or rescuing Henry, except for French. It's always French and German.
French or German.
It's always French and German. So French is translated to Peter Pan never fails, which again, much like I think how they changed Dark Hollow, spoils the ending of the episode.
Yeah.
Because
that's the French.
Like they're like, we see that you have a point with what you're doing. We're going to ignore that and do something completely different. In fact, we're going to make the title of the episode tell you exactly what happens.
Which is so frustrating because I was like, cool, we're getting to the end of this. And I'm like, fuck.
We have 2 more episodes and then we are done with Peter Pan.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
I mean, we're happy. I feel like you and I are both happy for different reasons. I'm so happy because we get to finally get to Zelina, and I find her arc to be, I mean, not as convoluted, but it's pretty convoluted, but she's just more fun to watch, in my opinion.
Anything is more fun to watch than this.
You just hate Pan, which works for me.
God, I hate Pan.
I know you do.
Once again, these are our opinions. If
you listen to the content warning from the beginning of the last Once Upon a Time episode, we don't hate you. We hate the character and the writing.
You know what? And if you want my reasons and you like skipped over and was like, okay, I'm not going to listen because the content warning. If you do actually want my reasons, they're in the episode. You just have to angrily listen to it. I'm sorry. I have reasons.
But here's the thing. If people want reasons and they don't want to listen to that episode, that's their own damn fault.
Yep.
Because
I have very distinct reasons as to why I'm upset, and that is okay.
Exactly. Because our opinions are our opinions. At the end of the day, the reason is because it's our opinion. At the end of the day. That's the complete reason.
I'll just go watch Finding Neverland again and make myself feel better.
There you go.
And cry again, because Finding Neverland also makes me cry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sad movie.
I know.
So sad.
So the Pixie Woods, which is where his thinking tree was, which makes sense. I know.
It's such a sentence.
It's such a sentence. But to be fair, that makes sense because it's the tree where he gave up Rumple, which is where the pixie dust flowers were supposed to grow. Pixie Woods shares its name with a fairy tale themed amusement park in Stockton, California.
Fun.
Found that out. This one is, and this is more or less my last. No, this not more or less. This is my last fun fact. And it's not really a fun fact. It's more speculation. I think people are just stupid.
The fan base must love us.
I know they must. The babies who played Henry were uncredited. We don't have their names.
That's okay.
But that's okay because they're infants. It's okay. For a while, there was a lot of fandom speculation that one of them was Colin's son because he had just had a baby in the last few months with his wife. But I'm fairly certain that's been shot down. And knowing him as a person, there's no way in hell he would have let his kid do that.
No.
So it's most likely not none of them are his son. Because people also asked if baby Neil was ever played by Ginny and Josh's first son. And I'm pretty sure there's like under no uncertain circumstances were any of those babies their son. Like he was always on set with them because by the time she gives birth,
as I said, breastfeeding if you're doing so.
Exactly. Because so she gave birth after they wrapped season 3. So I think I want to say she had her son late May, which means, and they went back to filming in July.
Good God, that's a fast turnaround.
It's a very well. So she gave birth at the end of May. They wrap in March. But
no, I meant for her acting. That's a fast turnaround.
It is, but one thing I do appreciate, and we'll see this in the beginning of season 4, is there is zero pressure on Ginnifer Goodwin to get back to any kind of pre-baby weight,
as it should be.
She takes her time because it makes sense that she would look like someone who just gave birth because her character also just gave birth.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair.
That's one thing I really do appreciate, that the writers or the production, whoever was in charge of that decision, it should have been her solely, but I'm sure someone probably had opinions about it. I do appreciate that the decision was made that you take your time and you just let your body be your body, because bodies are different after you give birth.
Look, I'm just now really, in the last year, I'm just now losing the baby weight that I gained with my son, which was a lot of weight. He was over 9 pounds. So 5 foot me, over 9 pound baby. I gained 50 pounds.
Wow.
Of baby weight with him. and because I was so sick with my daughter, I didn't gain as much.
Mhm.
But and that weight is so hard to lose.
I'm sure.
And there's this whole thing where like some people when they breastfeed, they lose weight really fast
Mhm.
afterwards. That
Yeah.
didn't happen for me. Did not happen. So
That's okay.
yeah,
Bodies are different.
4-year-old just now getting rid of the extra weight that which it's okay to have some weight on you.
Mhm. You gave birth. You
Yeah.
made life.
I do wanna tell you though, we keep talking about, like, the babies and the acting.
Mhm.
Steven and I play this game sometimes when we're watching things, because almost everything you watch, especially stuff like this, there's gonna be babies.
Yeah.
So we like to just sit there whenever a baby pops on screen, we're like, "Okay, how old is it?" Like, how old is the baby actually? Because it happens in The Walking Dead too, and
Mhm.
the baby they hold up, like, at birth, me
Mhm.
and him are like, "That's like a 4-month-old,"
Well, yeah, because I mean,
because
legally,
they have to,
yeah, I think
but it's so much fun.
yeah, I know. I'll look up whatever the specifics are. 'Cause I, for whatever reason, there was an episode of the Truest Blood podcast where they talk about labor laws when it comes to an infant. I don't remember why. I don't remember
Mhm.
when there was an infant on that show in the first 2 seasons. Uh,
Which ironically, I was talking to my grandmother yesterday about True Blood.
oh,
It's so funny.
but maybe I think she was talking more about the child labor laws as it pertains to children, but infants came up in conversation. I have no idea anymore. But like, there's a certain age where they like legally can start.
Yeah.
So like that's why all of like your newborns, yeah, are like minimum like 3-month olds.
They're like 3, 4 months old. Though if a baby that size came out of you, I'm
Mhm.
so sorry. Like because 3, 4 months old, they gain weight usually pretty fast.
Mhm.
Because they lose weight and then they gain.
Yeah.
Because I think Eric started off at 9'4". He lost down to I think like 8 something, which
Mhm.
4 ounces, like
Yeah.
that's and then by 2 months old, he was over 10 pounds.
Mhm.
So or over like, yeah, over 12. He grew fast. Boy likes to eat.
You have a big husband.
I have a very big husband.
But what's funny is there's gonna be another baby. So we're so
So many babies.
there no, really there is. It's really unfortunate. At one point one of the
It's unfortunate.
one of one of the actors later on in the show at a convention, she'll just go, "They really like watching women give birth on Once Upon a Time," because like she it occurred to her how many times we'd seen it
Well,
throughout
it's
the show.
twice already.
Well, okay, so yeah,
There
so
no, yeah.
in this so currently I mean, we've only seen Emma was in labor. Oh, no, twice. No,
Snow.
Snow, you're right. Snow.
I was right.
No, you're right. No, we're gonna see Snow. I forgot about the pilot. We're gonna see Snow again.
You forgot about the pilot
This
of
is
the
so
show.
long ago. Yeah, Snow's gonna. So there's gonna be a labor scene for Snow again. There's gonna be the baby that I was thinking about. We don't see much of this other one that I'm thinking of. At minimum, I think we see people in labor 6 times.
My
Um,
god.
Yeah. But there's another baby in season the scene I'm thinking of is in season 6. There's a blooper of Lana holding the baby because very often, especially with that baby, because she gets carted around a lot, they use a doll because again,
Mhm.
labor laws. And if you don't have to see the kid's face, you don't gotta use the actual kid. But this one was actually the baby. And it was a very cute scene of her with a rattle, like kind of like, playing with the baby, but then the blooper just goes like, hang on, I just got farted on.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
That never ends.
Lana's very good with children. She's very good with the kid actor. She's very good with just the kids in her life. And so the scene when they're trying to get the Lost Boys to tell them where his thinking tree is. So there's Felix, there's a boy in the middle, and then there's like the smaller boy that actually tells them that it's in the Pixie Woods. The boy in the middle was I don't know how to phrase this, Lana's then stepson.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's how that worked. So
'Cause she doesn't have children, correct?
no, not of her own.
Okay.
I wanna say her ex-husband, I believe, had 3 sons.
Fun.
I think. Yeah, 3 sons. So she had at the time, she had 3 stepsons more, but she's just very good with kids, so just that comes through with this so much, like, her
And you
holding, like, the
yeah.
baby foot, like, when she's trying to calm him down, but I loved, Granny, like, she's like, "A bedtime story gets them used to your voice. It worked with Ruby. Her issues started later."
I liked that too.
I love Granny so much. Like, they throw her in as, like, such a non sequitur
Mhm.
in this episode, but it makes sense to make us feel like we're back in Storybrooke at least for a little while.
But then also Granny offering help at the
Yes.
same time. Like,
Mhm.
even though it's Regina and no one's a big fan of the mayor,
Mhm.
it's like, "No, you've got a crying infant. Would you like some help?"
Yeah, looks like you can see that in the way that Regina responded when she walked over, because she walked over just like, "Oh, who's this?" Like, very sweet, and she's
Mhm.
just like, "Do you have a problem with him crying?" She's like, "No." need some help. But like so much of this episode is Regina taking things a little too personally.
Just a little.
Like I said, this is a common theme and something we really only see in this episode and Welcome to Storybrooke, because these are the only episodes we see of her. That's not true. These are the only episodes where we see her prior to the pilot dealing with people. I'm trying to phrase this so delicately without spoiling things. There's a moment in a flashback in season 6 where like her lack of people skills don't matter because she's almost basically back to being the evil queen for a few seconds.
Gotcha.
So this is a case of like with Granny, with Dr. Whale, in, you know, the way she was with Archie, all of this stuff. Like, it's just, we see her lack of people skills. And it almost feels like it took her raising Henry for her to learn those for herself.
Honestly.
But I wish we had just at least like in an anthology episode of like every flashback is different. Like I would have wanted one moment where we see Lana with like 5-year-old Henry. I think that would have been very cute. I'm just saying.
Like baking. Like the two of them like baking together would have been adorable.
Her making something for like, you know, a bake sale at school.
Trick-or-treating.
Trick-or-treating.
Oh my god, her dressed as the evil witch trick-or-treating with 5-year-old Henry.
And he insists on being like a prince or something from a Disney movie.
Who do you want to be? Prince Charming.
Well, it was...
Come on, that would be fucking funny.
But he makes her dress up as Snow White.
Oh my god, Lana!
We never saw Lana. I don't think she ever dressed up as Snow White. But there is a photo that
can she please?
I would love that. But there's a photo that floats around of her with like a Snow White like cardboard cutout in like a Target or something, and she's like pretending to strangle it.
Valid,
because that's what she does. But that would have been amazing. But there was a fandom. It was basically a fandom wide headcanon that Henry loved the Star Wars movies because that was something that Regina would willingly show him because it had no one that they're related to in it.
Different portal.
They never did bring in Star Wars. They kept asking for that, and once it was bought by Disney, it was plausible. But I think even that might be a bit too much.
I don't know. We'd have Leia.
We would have Princess Leia. I don't know, but at the end of the day,
at least a Wookiee. Throw a Wookiee in there.
They do make references to Star Wars.
Okay,
so like it's clear. I mean, that's where like the idea that Henry has seen it because he mentions like the Wookiee prisoner gag. So maybe I don't know. But that's it. Just I like the headcanon aspect of it that like showed it because like no one we know is in this movie. These you can watch.
It would still been funny because then he could have even actually been dropped off. He could have been dressed up 5-year-old little Henry as an Ewok or Wookiee or Luke Skywalker. Like it's just so many different cute ideas. See, I love that we have these ideas 10 years.
Yeah. This episode, what's really funny actually is from when this episode goes out. So the episode aired on December 1st. This episode will be published on December 16th of this year. So it's almost 11 years to the day.
Just so funny. I was pregnant with my first kid in December of 2013. Yeah. I had her May 2014. So it's probably a good thing I wasn't watching this show at the time.
It might have made you more of an emotional wreck.
Then I would have bawled my eyes out because, a few months pregnant. Like it's like a good I've been like 4 months pregnant at that time.
Oh, wow. So one thing I didn't like about this episode, I know you mentioned it before, but I was like, I don't like the ideology that's behind it. That Henry cries and cries and cries and cries, but as soon as Snow holds him, he calms down.
I was annoyed with that. That actually actively pissed me off.
Like, as soon as someone of his biological line holds him, like, it's... I know that the writers, like, they've stated their stance, and I know your characters can have a different stance, but this is a case of no one's saying anything. You are kind of making your stance known with the actions you're putting into the show.
Yep. And they could try to say, like, oh, well, it's just because it's Snow, she's so gentle, and this and that, but, like, I still don't like it.
If you wanted to make it a thing of someone being, like, nice and gentle, have Granny hold him.
Exactly. Granny would have been perfect, because then you've got that grandmotherly love. She's done it before. Like, she's done it twice.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah, she basically raised Ruby.
She raised Ruby and her own child. Granny would have been a better choice.
I think so.
Rumpel would have been the funniest choice.
That would have been hilarious, because he would have had the aspect of like, what do I do with it?
Yeah, he would have been sitting there, but then of course he would have stopped crying most likely
Yeah.
still. But it would have been so
That would
fucking
have at
funny.
least been, it would have at least added a comedy aspect to it versus,
I think they were trying to stick with heartfelt in this one though.
I think so. I think a little comedy is not a bad thing,
And then
but
use the cannonball.
there's your comedy. So I said, I think in the last episode, I did want to talk a little bit about some linguistical arguments the fandom likes to get into about Regina's take on regret.
Okay.
Because our burger of the week is the Save Henry burger, comes with no regrets because I thought it was funny. And the point of the thinking tree, it holds on to your regret. And Regina's line is, because after he says like, no, the evil queen, the one who has the most to regret of all. She goes, I did cast a curse that devastated an entire population. I have tortured and murdered. I have done so many terrible things. I should be overflowing with regret, but I'm not because it got me my son.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are like, how can she not regret all the things that she did and all this? And I'm like,
Got her son.
it got her son. But hey, we need to calm down about the difference between regret and remorse. They are
But
two different things.
and like that's like me. I don't regret my last marriage. I
Yeah.
don't regret my divorce. I don't regret anything from that portion of my life because it brought me my daughter.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like I pulled in the Merriam-Webster dictionary definitions of regret and
Oh,
remorse.
you went dictionary.
I went dictionary because the definition of regret is to be very, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but is to be very sorry for the things that have happened in your past, or to look back on them with not the best.
Mm-hmm.
Remorse is a gnawing distress over past actions. If we're gonna go colloquially here, we're gonna kind of break that down a little bit. You can be remorseful without holding regret, and we didn't hear that she's not remorseful for things. Regret usually comes with a desire to change past actions, while remorse usually does not. Remorse is more about understanding that past actions were bad, or you'll work better in the future. But Regina's right. She doesn't regret her past actions. She has no desire to change them because they all got her to Henry.
Yep.
So like people that like yell about like how this means that she doesn't feel bad for what she did. She didn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
She can
That,
she can be
and for
remorseful
the
without wanting to change things.
which takes me back to me. I don't regret getting married, but I could have still had my child without the marriage. Like
Exactly.
that's where I see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because the child would have happened regardless.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my thing with the linguistics there. I'm like, I did love it. Like Lana's leg was propped up, and I'm like, honey, why are we like lounging against the tree? And then I'm like, oh, you're probably holding up the vines because they're not very tight around you because you have to break them. Okay, that makes sense. But I was just like, she's just very dramatically leaning with like one leg propped up, like she's just lounging against this tree.
Yeah.
Which I just found funny. But I did love that we do see, because it's what comes up so much is giving your children their best chance. And
Yes.
so obviously we see Emma gives up Henry because she's still incarcerated when she gives birth, but it's a case of she can't give him anything. All she has to her name is a car right now. She can't give him anything else. And Regina, I was gonna say Lana, Regina being afraid of what keeping him could mean. I mean, there's people have. I'll go into my rant about the forgetting potion after we do our stats, 'cause I think that'll be a good closer for the episode. But like, I like that she ultimately decided that what he needs is more important than what she wants.
Okay.
Because what she wants is the curse to remain intact. But what she also, I mean, she also wants him. But her thing is, Henry is my son. The best thing for Henry is to stay with a mother who will never let go of him ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's best, especially for a kid that young to be jumped around so often. He started in Phoenix. He was put in a family in Boston. I don't know how that would work with our current social services system. That seems, the trafficking across state lines seems like not likely for an
I don't.
infant.
Yeah. They don't tend to go across state lines unless it's actually for adoption.
Exactly.
So that would have
So
been more so of like, okay, these people decided to adopt him, got him, and then decided, oh wait, no, we don't actually.
yeah. So I mean that seems to be what happened. Is he was moved to Boston to be placed with a family, and then something happened. But that's still, I feel like, without like, I feel like with these kinds of closed adoptions where she has nothing to do with it, where it almost seems like it's an adoption set up by children's services, that still wouldn't make any sense to me.
No,
But
like yeah, like closed adoption. The only difference really between open and closed adoption is open. The birth parent can. There's different levels of open
mhm,
adoption.
yeah,
Like at least just having the parents' info for the child if they ever want to reach out. I've known people who did such an open adoption that they would meet up with the birth parents
Mhm.
just to hang out.
Yeah, some people want that.
And then closed adoption, that just means you're not going to get access
Mhm.
to who your parent is. They don't want you to know who they are,
Yeah.
but you're still going to have ethnicity,
Mhm.
genealogical, any medical records that are accessible. Like you're
Yeah.
going to still have all that
Mhm.
because you kind of need it.
Yeah. No, I agree. But I still can't get over the fact that when she almost gives him up, the people that were lined up to adopt him were the Darling brothers posing as a same-sex couple.
That was a choice.
It was a choice I did, but this is one thing I did check out of curiosity. Same-sex couple adoption has been legal in Massachusetts since 1993, so they could legally adopt him.
Oh, good. They're way ahead of a lot of people.
Massachusetts is a very, very blue state.
Yes, very. I have a
Like,
friend who lives there.
yeah, so do I. And like it's a very, very liberal state.
I'm honestly jealous. I'm like, can I? And then I see how expensive it is
Very expensive.
there, and I'm like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, I could not live in the area where my friend lives without moving into her office. I couldn't afford it otherwise.
It's so
Um,
expensive.
so I'll go into my little thing about her forgetting potion after we do stats. So Katie, what did you rate this episode?
I gave this 8s across the board.
Okay, that is a
So I
solid score.
really did enjoy it. I
Mhm.
did. I have my issues that I've
Yes.
already discussed.
Mhm.
But thank goodness we had something good because I was struggling.
That's
I mean, what have I rated these?
I warned you. I warned you that this was gonna be a draggy arc.
I
Like,
really love it's so funny to have 2 30s in the middle of this though, because
no, I
Quite a Common
know.
Fairy and Ariel, I absolutely loved.
Mhm.
And then it's 24, 24, 19, 20, 16, 11, 24.
Yeah.
Like to have 2 30s in there is like, what?
No, I know. Well, I have it's like, yeah, I never got that far, but to be fair, for me, Save Henry is a 30. Like,
Yeah, I expected that.
this is right there. My 2 higher scores, yeah, were also Ariel and Quite a Common Fairy. Quite a Common Fairy got a 26, and Ariel got a 27, the 27 being nestled between a 19 and a 12.
So this oh,
Like, here's okay, so
almost there.
if I'm looking through the rest of the season, I'm pretty sure but here's the thing is for I always say this, I like 3B a lot more than I like 3A.
Mhm.
Season 3 still has 3 more 30s to come. That's what
Oh.
I say when this season has, at least for me, has very low lows and very high highs, which unfortunately just makes it kind of average out to being kind of mid.
I feel like Witch Hunt's gonna be good.
Which one is gonna be the one where I'm talking like this the entire time?
Fuck yeah, that's definitely gonna be good
That's
then.
gonna be a fun time. And what's even better, I don't know if this make it better or not. I have 2 scenes from the episode completely memorized, both of which involving the character who talks like this.
I'm laughing a little bit at the "It's not easy being green"
I
because
love that episode so
well,
much.
some people like to call my husband the Jolly Green Giant,
Mhm.
so it just makes me think of him.
I know. I commend them though for being able to put a Muppets reference into this show.
That's they've put a lot into this show.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm honestly not surprised with
Yeah.
the things that they have put into this show. Um, I mean, I did the whole rundown the last episode of the family tree,
Yeah, that's
so
just that you did.
who like I'll update eventually.
Exactly. You'll get more branches.
Oh my god.
But again, so with Regina's with her bedtime story that she gave him while she was creating the potion. I wrote it down. I do want to read it just because I think it's just important to kind of get a lot of stuff for her character. And it goes into my rant. But again, still I just love the voice that she uses for that
Mhm.
story cuz it's so sweet. Once upon a time, there was a queen, and she cast a glorious curse that gave her everything she wanted, or so she thought. She despaired when she learned that revenge was not enough. She was lonely. And so she searched the land for little boy to be her prince, and then she found him. And though they lived happily, it was not ever after. There was still an evil lurking out there. The queen was worried for her prince's safety. While she knew she could vanquish any threat to the boy, she also knew she couldn't raise him worrying. No, she needed to put her own troubles aside and put her child first. And so the queen procured an ancient potion of forgetting. Oh, it's all right. If the queen drinks the potion, she won't forget her child. She'll only forget her worries, her troubles, her fears. And with those gone, she and her prince can indeed finally live happily ever after. It's such a good like,
Mhm.
little chunk of speech. So with Regina's forgetting potion, so obviously she forgets her fears about raising the savior's son, so it enables her to an extent to forget that she knows who the savior is.
Mhm.
This is a headcanon, people disagree with me, there's really no evidence to the contrary either way. Since this is the latest flashback we get prior to the pilot, basically, we don't see anything else between here and there.
Mhm.
My headcanon for this is that the potion kinda puts her under the curse a little bit. Like, not entirely, so she forgets that she's the
Ooh.
winner of all of this, but that's what I'm getting because so much of what we'll see with Henry getting the book in a quick flashback in 311, but, from the pilot, Regina has no idea what anyone's talking about with this book that he's going around talking about.
Yeah.
We don't really know how long he's been in therapy. We don't know what's happened there. We know that at some point he started to be a little detached and be kind of a loner, and that's a normal thing to put your kid in therapy for,
Yes.
especially because the catalyst for him getting the book, but I'm going to guess the catalyst for the funk is Mary Margaret assigns a family tree
Mhm.
assignment in school. My guess is that is the first time I keep saying Lana, I mean to say Regina. My guess is that's the first time Regina tells Henry that he's adopted, which causes
Mm.
the funk, which then would
Yeah.
cause the therapy. I think that's a very natural thing for anyone to put their kid in therapy for, which I know all we see in the show is him saying that, like, you wanted me to think like I was crazy. Like, she had no idea about the book until Emma showed up.
Yeah.
So that's my headcanon is once Emma shows up, that's kind of breaks her out of the funk of the potion and whatever level of the curse it put her under. That's my headcanon. Take it or leave it. There's no evidence to the contrary, so I like my theory.
I mean, it makes sense.
I think so too.
Thank you all for listening. Join us next time when we discuss Bob's Burger Season 6, Episode 9, Sacred Couch, and Episode 10, Lice Things or Lice. Don't forget to like, rate, and follow the podcast wherever you listen so you can be notified every time we publish a new episode. Follow us at OBDYK_pod on Instagram and TikTok. And if you'd like to join our Patreon, you can find the link with more details in our show notes.
This has been an episode of Okay, But Did You Know? A TV and media podcast. It was hosted by Lauren and Katie and edited by Lauren.